Maybe also if there are some questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we can return to you or to external afterwards by mail or
Okay.
respond and answer.
Connection. That was the inbox. No. Is that no? Yeah.
Okay, good morning. Thank you. I'll start with two apologies. First of all, all the other presentations today have been incredibly clever, scientific, technical, and my presentation isn't that at all. I'm going to talk about the vulgar subject of money. And my second apology is that in talking about money for zoo projects, which is something I've been working on for 30 to 35 years, it's a vast subject. It involves getting sponsorship from companies, donations from philanthropists, and money from the public purse. So this particular presentation only touches the very surface of part of that, getting money from the public purse, from the tax base, from the mayor or the government. So it's about how the zoo director.
Why it's not working? Oh, no, this one.
Yes, this one.
This.
How your boss, the zoo director, talks to the person with the purse strings, whether it's the mayor or the government or whoever, about money for projects. And effectively turn that conversation into a way in which he or she will provide funds for a master plan or another project, and that may well include funding for water. So here is the poor zoo director, she or he, species I know very well. I've met over many countries in many years, and they are a very stressed animal, very stressed species, because everybody knows better than the director how to run the zoo, internally and externally. And there's all kinds of projects that need money. And in particular, she or he thinks I've got all these water problems because as Petra said, and as Hannah said, water is everywhere. Water is effectively the zoo. And they know they should really do this as some kind of strategic overall plan, but it's very tempting to do it bit by bit. That's the stress of a day-to-day, year-to-year project. And anyway, it's academic if they can't get any money. So now here's the person with the purse strings, the mayor, or whoever else. And they know the director's coming to them soon, and they know the director's going to ask them for lots of money. So they're getting ready to say no.
No, the one up.
What?
You are yeah, that was good. Okay. You were sitting.
Suppose the zoo director, the mayor, actually likes the zoo personally. He understands it's important about biodiversity and animals. Takes his children or grandchildren there, thinks it's fantastic. But he's only got so much money, and he's got other priorities. And the biggest priority of that is he wants to get elected again, get his plant in England. So how is the zoo going to help him do that? He thinks the zoo director, in this case, because we're talking about water management, is coming for water for a new pond. And thanks to Julio for this next idea, because he thinks 50 million kroner for a few ducks is very nice. So he's decided already he's not going to give them money for water management or for anything else. He's going to be a politician, he's going to be polite, and he's going to wave them goodbye. So now they meet. And this is a very, very clever zoo director, because she says she leads with the fact that lots and lots and lots of people come to the zoo. Not only the amount of people, but the type of people, because unlike our valued colleagues in culture, in the arts and heritage, we know, I think, in zoos around the world, pretty much a bit of everybody comes. It's not just the rich, it's not just the highly educated, it's not just the senior classes, it's the entire society. So it's the people who buy things, it's the people who pay tax, I'm talking about tax, and it's the electorate. So he likes this. He's beginning to get excited. He's beginning to not be quite so relaxed. He leans forward. It's a highway that he hasn't thought of to the hearts and minds of the people he needs to get elected and to deliver all his policies. So then she goes on and says, look, I don't need a feasibility study. Zoos have been here for 200 years. It's not a new idea. If you put finance into this organisation, you know it's not going to disappear or collapse overnight. And I generalise here, but unlike, again, the Opera House, how wonderful that is as an organisation, it's financially stable. I generalise. Most zoos, they do want money for particular projects because people are willing to come and pay and come back. They don't need sustainable funding. They don't need funding coming in every year. So the mayor likes this because he realises if I support this project, we're not going to be coming back to me next year financially collapsing. So now the zoo director is very clever, but zoo directors make mistakes. And in my opinion, this is a mistake because she says, she talks about tourism. And in my experience, political decision makers like to put zoos in a narrow box about tourism and leisure, and that's not all zoos are. The mayor will say tourism is great. We politicians, we absolutely support tourism. It brings people in, it creates jobs, etc. But privately, he thinks, again, depending on the country, I generalise, it's not the kind of industry that gets me really excited. I'm not probably going to put capital funding into a tourism project. I'm slightly resistant to that. So she explains that the zoo is also about science, very important, very much the subject of today's workshop. And he, again, he's going to misunderstand because he's going to think, oh, yeah, science, I've got it. Just like you're in the tourism box, you're about veterinary science, you're about biodiversity. That's very important. But again, does it create industry? Does it create new jobs? I'm not sure in huge numbers. But then she explains, she intervenes and said, no, it's every kind of science. Pretty much every aspect of physics, biology, chemistry, and engineering, again, the subject of today's meeting, it's beneath the animal world, it's connected to the animal world. And that allows us to bring new people into careers, education, and raise the status of my region or my city or my country. Science matters. People will pay for science. She pushes on this point and talks about the prospect, the potential for a zoo and a university to work together. Now, by definition, universities are massive generators for our societies, not only in teaching and research, but also in innovation and culture and sense of place, etc. But they are, by their very nature, not public-facing, and the zoo, by its very nature, is exactly that. So the marriage between a zoo and a university is a pretty strong one, and I've seen it all around the world. She pushes even further on this now and talks about the fact that the zoo can be the platform, the theatre for innovation, whereby there's some kind of knowledge, whether it's in engineering, as in this case, or in physics or in biology, or even in culture, that could then gets translated into practical benefit for society, and that can be tax, money, new jobs, new businesses. And again, very much the subject of what we're here about today. Water management technology as just one example. Now his mind is really working because he's putting it all together. He understands it's going to help the identity of his geography. It helps his citizens understand universities, why they're important, how that leads into jobs and creates goods and benefits everybody. Then she talks about the international nature of zoos. They are not only about here, they may well deal with nature species, but they are a window into the exotic world. And once again, he jumps to conclusions. He thinks that she's talking about educating the public about the wildlife of Africa or Asia or South America, and certainly that's what zoos do. But she explains that it's a small leap from talking about the wildlife of Malaysia to talking about the culture of Malaysia and therefore the society of Malaysia. And that leads pretty quickly to the subject of trade, links to emergent overseas economies. One thing that gets a political decision maker excited is the idea that here's a way that I can create some kind of bridge that creates a footprint for my people, my town, my city, my businesses to create dialogues with overseas businesses that can mean international trade. International trade means money. She talks about the social role, of zoos, how they bring everybody together, how people come in family groups normally. They spend 4 or 5 hours. They're coming to learn about new information. They're coming to make memories. People remember coming with their parents and grandparents. They solidify society together, and all aspects of the society come together. In effect, the zoo helps make people happier, better mental health, and is a fundamental arrow to the hearts and minds of the people who elect the mayor. And now finally she comes to the specific subject of environmental technology, which might be water management. Again, that's the subject here, but it could be any kind of sustainable technology, any kind of project that brings us towards a zero carbon society. If you're going to draw your citizenry into an engagement with the world, there has to be about the environment. Where better would you really do it at the zoo, where they come and will pay and come to learn about the environment? It's all now beginning to add up. He's talking about getting to his electorate and how that links to the fact that it's a financially stable investment vehicle. It's not going to disappear. It's not going to go broke. It helps linking his economy to other economies around the world. It promotes science, universities, innovation, jobs. It makes people feel better about themselves and therefore feel better about the people who are ruling them. And it promotes social practices of every sort, water management. And you can see the whole idea of not the water cycle here, but the money cycle, because all the money that there has got, whatever it is, comes from tax. It's a finite but flexible pot of money. And if he can invest some of that into a project at the zoo that he knows will actually feed into the economy in ways A, B, C, D, and F, then that creates greater prosperity, which means more tax, and it goes back into the parties taking the money out from the first place. And so finally, they're really, really liking one another. The mayor, the guy with the purse strings, who was determined to not fund the project, came with a whole set of limited attitudes to the zoo and its water management plan, now sees this as a project that can help him tick all the boxes he needs to tick. They walk up together and give each other big. How long have I no time. Well, that's good because I've just finished. Thank you.